Welcome to the Analytics Engineering Podcast, featuring conversations with practitioners inventing the future of analytics engineering.
This week is one of our favorite weeks of the year because it's COALESCE. COALESCE is DBT Labs' online data conference dedicated to the advancement and practice of analytics engineering. We have nearly 100 speakers giving talks across 5 days, and this year we have more than 10,000 attendees. We're broadcasting a few talks on the podcast so that our listeners don't miss out on the great content. We are about to listen to DBT Labs founder and CEO Tristan speak with Snowflake's SVP of Product, Tristan Kleinerman. They talk a lot about the future of Snowflake and recent product developments in the storage and compute layer. The two have no shortage of opinions or ideas. This is your chance to hear some of them unfiltered. Let's hit play.
I wore the Snowflake t-shirt today. This is actually, I don't wear it that often anymore because it's getting a little bit thin. I got this at a Snowflake event back in 2017, and I've worn it so many times that I think that the washer has kind of had its way with it. So thanks for joining, Tristan.
It's great to be here, and I'll make sure to send you another couple of...
Are you still making this color? I like this color.
Yeah, we have him. I'll get you another one.
Nice. And we definitely did collect a bunch of questions, but I have to admit that I am going to use this session as my own personal opportunity to ask you all of the questions that I've always had as a Snowflake user over the years. So maybe we'll get to some other people's questions. Before we get into the serious stuff, I'm curious if you could tell us, you've been at Snowflake for a little while now, and really I think you joined at a point in time where the technology was just kind of maturing. Like you look at the Snowflake user graph and it started to go up, and then it was just like, bink. And that, I don't know if you can take all the credit in the world for that, but I think that happened right around when you joined. What was that world like? Did you still have the super nice office? How many people worked at the company?
Yeah. Let's rewind. I've been 4 years next month with Snowflake. When I joined, it was just over 300 people. Most people asked Snowflake, who is Snowflake? What is it? So definitely it was not a well-known thing. I had seen the Sigma paper and I could appreciate the architecture. Hey, this is going to be interesting. But it was a very, very small team. I say 300 something people, but engineering, the tech org was maybe 50 people, 60 people. It was smallish. Early beginnings.
When we were in the green room right before this, I made a connection that I had not made before. But I think you probably had a good opportunity to appreciate some of Snowflake's way of looking at the world, certainly in your days at Microsoft, but also at YouTube. There was a thing that happened while you were there called Procella, and I remember, I probably read this paper well after, once it got released into the public, but I remember reading this back in the day and was pretty blown away by it. Can you say a little bit about what Procella is/was, and to what extent that there are some similarities between that and what you folks are building?
Yeah, so Procella was one of many database analytics systems at Google. The original motivation was to power the YouTube analytics system, where YouTube has millions of content creators, and you want to see how's your video doing, how's your channel doing, your fans. So it was, how do you power very low latency analytics at a very, very large scale, understandably so. And frankly, the different solutions that were there were not quite meeting the requirements that we had. And that's what led to the creation of that system.
I remember that the thing that really impressed me about it from reading the white paper was that it wrapped up kind of two different data access patterns behind a single API. You could kind of a little bit have your cake and eat it too, which the way that I think about designing databases, not that I've ever done it myself, but the way that I understand the exercise is that there's this pretty broad design space, and you get to pick where do you want to locate yourself in that design space. You have to make certain trade-offs, either your batch reads are truly fantastic, but you're less real. You have to trade off all these things. And the way I read the paper was that Priscilla had found a way to kind of have like 2 points in the design space, but not make it more complicated for users. Is my understanding of that right? And to what extent do you feel like what you folks are doing at Snowflake right now is also trying to have a similar, you get multiple points in the design space for users?
So it is accurate that whenever you're building one of these platforms, you need to figure out what you're optimizing for. And there is probably the biggest trade-off is how narrow you are in terms of use case versus how broad you are in terms of the platform. You can be really, really, really good at one use case, or it can be maybe a little bit less precise on the targeting, but of a broader nature. I think what Priscilla did at YouTube was a reasonably narrow case. I'm not going to say ultra narrow, but it was a reasonably narrow set of query patterns. We understood the data, we understood the data model. So that's how you build a system that is quite fast because you understand effectively the use case, the data, the patterns, the growth rates, etc. That's a benefit that platforms like Snowflake don't have. We see people in Snowflake showing up with a handful of gigabytes of data with very repeatable reports, but also we see petabyte-sized tables with ad hoc exploration, or I saw recently a 7-way join. So I think that may be the biggest difference on how broad of a platform you are. And of course, what we aim to do is make sure that we appeal to a very large set of use cases.
I'll connect these dots in a second, but I want to go over to clean rooms. Clean rooms is like a thing that I have only learned about recently. I have never had the opportunity to use a Snowflake-powered clean room before, but it's like such a fascinating concept. Can you talk about what this is?
Yeah. So at a high level, a clean room is a collaboration workspace by which 2 or more parties can go and do analytics, do even machine learning on combined data without necessarily seeing each of the other parties' data. My simplest example is something I think you and I have talked in the past on. If we wanted to figure out which customers does DBT Labs and Snowflake have in common, maybe you're not super incentivized to give me all the list of your customers. Maybe I don't want to give you the whole list of my customers, but how do we identify who are the mutual customers so we can go and provide a more targeted use case? A clean room is exactly that type of construct where we both get to sort of contribute our data. We get to ask questions on the common data without disclosing each other's data. Traditionally, this has been done by a trusted third party. So you hire a company, we both give the data to a company, and then they give you the answer. What we've done at Snowflake is part of a bigger journey around collaboration. 4+ years ago, we started doing data sharing, but very quickly we said, you know what, if we expand the concept to function sharing, I can give you, Tristan, a function. You can operate on my data without seeing my data. You can give me a function, and that is the foundation. And let's say the clean room concept is red hot in terms of popularity and value, but there are also macro trends, deprecation of third-party cookies, IDFA type of changes, which has created an even bigger set of needs on how do companies collaborate on data without disclosing full data sets to each other. I'll pause there. Maybe it's a topic we can go for 30 minutes.
Yes. We'll do it again tomorrow. The idea that this is like a very unusual thing, I think, in the world of database functionality. Certainly, if you kind of canvas the most popular 20 databases in the world, I don't think you will frequently see this type of feature. The reason that I brought it up is that I think it points to a certain uniqueness to Snowflake in that, and my guess is that this has to do with the way that you see yourself as a cloud-first company. Can you fill in the blanks here?
Yeah. So you're right that the cloud first and the design for the cloud is what makes the difference, and it's what enables something like the clean rooms. Something that was very early on, way before I was at Snowflake, all credit goes to our founders. It was, they took every single subsystem of a traditional database system and said, how would you rethink this if you had not only virtually unlimited resources, but also ephemeral resources? You can instantiate and release resources at will. Traditional databases were always constrained on memory, constrained on disk space. Like running out of disk space is a very real thing. But the moment that someone tells you, assume that you have unlimited disk space, you start to define something different. And that's what leads to the, hey, what if different customers could have compute clusters all sharing same storage substrate? That was the insight that led to our data sharing. And then one thing leads to another one, and that's how we ended up with Clean Room. So what enables it is the cloud, to be honest. Like if you had a server under your desktop with your data, and I had the same thing here, there's no Clean Room we're going to do because you don't have this ability to have the platform that enables the collaboration. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and can you relay this back to, so it's been a funny experience from the outside to watch the banner on the Snowflake homepage change over time from data warehouse in the cloud to cloud data platform to data cloud. Are these changes over time kind of related to your own self-conception of like what it is that you're building? How does it actually manifest in the technology?
Yeah, great question. I would say that our positioning, which is manifested in Snowflake.com, has generally trailed what the product and what the vision have been doing. The data warehousing for the cloud was a very easy way to explain what we did. But early on, we had data sharing, and data sharing didn't add up as part of the data warehousing terminology. And we started to see that customers were doing more. Like, I want to do data transformation. I want to go and potentially build an application. And you don't think of data warehousing for that. That's when we said, okay, cloud data platform. But very quickly, we saw that having great technology in a company is only part of the requirements to having a great data capability. What we think is the big insight behind the data cloud is we want to deliver great technology. We want to deliver an ecosystem, data providers, function providers, application providers that enrich the experience. That's what is the data cloud. But if you look at our product journey, I would say we've always been enabling newer things ahead of, I would say, the broader positioning or the broader description of what we're doing.
So there's this kind of broadening that is happening. Maybe data warehouse is kind of like the most narrow definition, and over time you've understood it to be more and more broad. What's the limit? Like, if this is like a limit, a mathematical limit function, like at some point in time, are you going to be competing with Postgres for OLTP workloads too? Like, not to say, I'm sure that there are some folks that actually do use Snowflake to like as some type of a transactional system, but I don't think that you're going to compete with Postgres today on like write velocity.
So I would say you're asking a question of a limit. So I want to be answer in terms of art of the possible. What informs how we think about it is we have a platform where we're every bit as proud on the technology that we have. And a lot of the emphasis that we've done for our customers is around data governance. Data governance includes security, but also privacy, but also knowing and understanding data. And what we are systematically doing is understanding what are the reasons that get customers to deviate from a single central governed platform. So you can say maybe advanced analytics is part of that. Then let's figure out how do we bring advanced analytics into the platform. Maybe there are use cases where someone is copying data out into a Postgres database for delivery of data, actually serving happens. Sure. That's one possible use case. We're saying maybe, or no, that one is more concrete. We are expanding around high concurrency, low latency use cases. So you can say it's chipping away from, to use Postgres as the example, chipping away from the use cases. But the way we think about it is not we're going after Postgres or we're going after some technology. It's more we're slowly expanding the set of use cases we support and the workloads we support, all in the name of helping our customers preserve governance. That's what matters, or that's the North Star.
I want to make sure to get to Snowpark. Snowpark is one of the things where when you folks first talked about that, I was just like, oh, let me definitely pay attention. The part of the challenge for me following along in Snowpark news is that until recently, it has not been focused on my language, my like non-SQL language of choice, Python. And I don't think the Python docs are out yet, but I'm gonna be all over them when they're out. So I might not fully understand the vision here, but what I, as a practitioner, am hoping that Snowpark over time gets me to is an environment where I can stop thinking about running any computation on my local device. I want not only to push my SQL workloads to a data platform, a cloud data platform, I want to also push predictive workloads to that same platform. And my understanding, although you correct me, is that we're not yet at a place where I can just like import sklearn and go train, the next great machine learning model. But maybe that's wrong. That's where I want to get to anyway.
So directionally, you're right. The motivation behind Snowpark was, how do we bring extensibility into Snowflake, and how do we give a choice to our users? Choice goes back to the programming language. There's a strong contingent of people on SQL is my answer to any problem. I am a SQL fan and junkie, but I'm also the first one to admit it is not the best tool for certain problem spaces. Java has its place, and Python obviously has a very large place in the world of manipulating data and reasoning through data. So we started with, let's extend Snowflake such that we can bring computation, bring interesting business logic onto Snowflake again within that governance boundary, of which one category of extensions could be predictive analytics, machine learning, etc. I have people that have shown me not only Java-based extensions to do machine learning, both training and scoring, but of course, there's a long list of customers lining up to our Python private preview, or we're in private preview now, and they're lining up to get access to be able to do this type of analytics. But it's not about only data science. We're seeing all sorts of interesting use cases around security and encryption and tokenization. How do you effectively, us as a database platform, get out of we have to produce every single built-in function and extension? How do we enable not only partners, we're strong believers in the ecosystem, but customers themselves? That is the big vision, which obviously it's a prereq for if you want to go bring additional workloads, how do you do it?
Yeah.
The extensibility.
I talk a lot about S-curves, their concept in the book by Carlota Perez, and I like see them in my sleep now. So like my question is, if all technologies are in some ways S-curves, where are we along the trajectory of Snowpark?
I would say from the investment on our side, we're very far along. Snowpark started many years ago, or like 2.5, 3 years ago. The fact that Java is in public preview and Python is in private preview, that's sort of the beginning of the end of the delivery. But I think we're very early on the adoption. The interest that we see is through the roof. But frankly, the technology has been Java in the market for 6 months, Python a couple of weeks since our snow day. So maturity of what we've delivered, I would say quite far along.
Yeah.
The adoption obviously early on based on timing.
It's such a funny building databases. I feel like is such a funny cultural environment. So like we release technology out quickly and iterate on it very quickly with our community. The Snowflake story is really like the founders and a small group of engineers were like in the labs for, I don't know, some like pretty large number of years before this technology was actually like usable by real customers. And that's kind of like when I started poking around at it. And it seems not unreasonable to imagine that Snowpark might have its own like gestation period before it like gets to a maturity point.
Yeah. So yeah, I like to say our founders bordered on insanity when they decided to build a new platform from scratch. Literally, they started building everything. Snowpark, I have some early use cases where I'm seeing dramatic like improvements relative to prior art, how concise the code is, etc. So yes, you can say, back to your S-curve, we will see very interesting use cases. We have a Snowpark Accelerated program, 50 plus companies, partners signing up to deliver solutions on Snowpark. So think of it as a runtime to bring logic to run closer to the data. And of course, by virtue of how we do it, it's cross-cloud, which is compelling for anyone that's trying to build solutions for data. So yes, early on.
We're running out of time, but maybe I'll get your thoughts on this overall. I had a conversation with Martine on, what was it, Monday. Title of the session was "How Big is this wave?" And we were talking about the persistence and just overall size of like this thing that we're all doing here together. I'm curious what you think 5 years from now looks like. And this is not really a Snowflake question per se. It's more like, how are people going to be using data in ways that they are not yet? What problems do we still need to solve?
Yeah. So I also compare notes with Martine on some regular basis. And I don't know, I haven't watched your Monday conversation, but I'll say that we're very, very early on as an industry on what is going to be possible with data. We have no end of tailwinds as an industry. The amount of data being created is through the roof, and the vast majority of data has been created in the last 5 years. The acknowledgement or realization that competitive advantage is based on data, that's only starting to dawn into every single industry. I've heard software is in the world. I think data is eating software. And the last one is cloud. The cloud is forcing everyone to rethink systems, rethink how things are being done. We're very, very early on as an industry, and I think the opportunity for all of us in the data world is huge.
I very much agree. And it's so like, for me, there's this clarity of like what the next 12 months is going to look like. And then there's this clarity of like what things will look like in a decade. And then I have this like uncertainty around like specifically like how our community, analytics engineers, data analysts, how do their jobs look differently in the 3 to 5 year time horizon? I think that there's only good things involved, but it's probably not just going to be like folks like churning out dashboards and just like working ever faster. Any thoughts?
No, so something that we obsess about, and you're also a big part of this, is help everyone focus on the data model, the metric definition, not on the tools and the infrastructure. We jointly want to take care of that. So I think we're going to see a huge focus on what is the metric definition that will give me the competitive advantage, or what is the timeliness to my decisions and my insights. Massive improvements on all of these dimensions. So much to be done.
Awesome. Christian, thanks so much for joining us.
Tristan, thank you for having me here. It's awesome to be part of COALESCE. Thank you.
The Analytics Engineering Podcast is sponsored by DBT Labs and is hosted by Tristan Handy and myself, Julia Schottenstein. Have comments, questions, or guest suggestions? Email us at podcast@dbtlabs.com. Our producers are Jeff Fox and David Krevitt. If you enjoy the show, please drop a review or share it with a friend. Thanks for listening.